Sometimes they feel like you have that morning every morning. Well, the message to the series that we're doing is Better Together. And it's really what God's laid on the heart for the vision for our church. And last night, I uploaded it on my iPad and had a look at it, and it was 50%. So I got up this morning, grabbed the iPad, and it was dead. I was like, was my iPad dead? That's not good. So I chucked it in the charger all morning, and I did other stuff, seeking God, as we do. And checking rugby scores. Great win by the Blues last night. Highlanders, Chiefs, all the New Zealand teams doing really well. Anyways, carry on. And then I go to the iPad, and charger was plugged in, but it wasn't charging. Has that ever happened to you before? I think you charge it all night, and no matter what I did, it wouldn't charge. And I got here, and I was thinking, all my notes are on my iPad. I'm just gonna do it old school. I'm gonna print it out on paper. And I've been our printer for whatever everybody else printed their stuff, but my stuff wasn't printing. I'm there trying to figure out how this is working. It's not going. I just can't get it going. I said, okay, no, nothing. The printer's not working. So then I go and I get some notes, get my Bible, and I jot down some notes and I put it in my Bible. Just before we start, I can't find my Bible. I'll look there. I'll try. When you lose something, you ever lost something, you start to retrack where you went and go and you follow the steps where you went. I did all that and I still couldn't find it. I even went back to where I first looked, because normally that's the place you first looked, you couldn't find it. You go back there and it's there. Has that ever happened to you? All of a sudden, I looked there. Honestly, I'm telling you the truth, I did look and it wasn't here. She goes, that's your man eyes again. And I was just thinking, so I did that, went back, and I still couldn't find it. So I grabbed another Bible. Good thing about the Bible is that the words are pretty much the same. But I didn't have my notes on it, so this is not really my Bible. See all these kind of fun little stickers on it. It's not what I normally do in my Bible, if you're wondering. But I'm praying and worshiping God, and I really believe God said to me, Ants, the vision I have for this church, it's in your heart. It's not on paper. You don't need to look at paper. You don't need to look into some kind of iPad. It's on your heart. And I was like, Lord, you could have told me this earlier. But anyway, when Poro took over the worship team, and then I took over the youth band, the worship team, she's starting slowly building the worship band, slowly building it up and trying to get numbers. Andrew Smith was on the team. He was the lead pastor as well as the musician, and we're trying to get the team going. We didn't have a youth band. We didn't have a youth band at all. And I had a vision. When I took over as youth pastor. We're gonna have an oxygen band, a real good band. We had a whole bunch of teenagers who fiddled with instruments. They were pretty good. So Poro started the journey of trying to get them together and start forming a team. And I must admit, when I first heard them play together, they were terrible. They were worse. And I said, Lord, just pray for a miracle. No, they were terrible. Honestly, they were so bad. And then Poro set a goal that they're going to perform at church as an item, Sunday church as an item. And I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? But this was the vision, right? And so we run holiday programs, and most of everybody in the band helped out at the holiday program. So we decided every day as they come, we'll have a practice, the same one song, every single night. And I hadn't heard them since I first heard them. And then I'm feeling confident, man, they're going to sound really good. Thursday night, I come in, and I listen to them, and man, they were still terrible. And I thought practice makes you good. And I wasn't confident at all. And I said to Poro, hey, it's all good. If the team's not ready, maybe another year or so. But she goes, no, they're ready. Come Sunday, I'm sitting down. I think, oh, Lord, forgive me for my sins. Lord, I just, when you ever gone to some evangelistic meeting and there's an evangelist, I believe there's somebody sitting over here, and then so you know they're going to say, there's someone and sit over in this area here. So you start, before you sit down, you're like, Lord, forgive me for my sins. Pray that's not me. So then you're kind of covered, so you're okay. And so I'm preparing, I'm praying, interceding, and then the team get up and they do their thing. And man, they blew my socks off. I wasn't wearing socks that morning, but they still blew it off. No, I wasn't wearing socks. They were incredible. They were amazing. I was thinking, is this the same team I heard a couple of days ago? Oh my gosh. And that's our Oxygen Youth Band. And they are amazing. In fact, then they filtered into the main team, and most of them are in the main team. And we've got a real good team. But it started with vision. Vision is a picture of a preferable future. It's a place that we want to go. I always say hope is very similar. That hope is a picture of a preferable future. That's where we want, what we hope for, and that's where we're heading to. And that's what vision is. Vision is a place we're heading in a direction. It's a destination. How we're going to. It might not look like now. The vision, what I saw at present, it was terrible. But the vision was, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Porto had that vision for the team. She kept believing in them. I had lots of faith. So much faith. I was praying God to intervene. But, it was so good. They knew, and the mission was they practiced every single week. But we can be like that in our life too when we lack vision in our own life. Have you ever been there with your finances? Where you get so bogged down with finance, we can get caught in HPs, higher purchases. We get something now and we can pay it later. That's all cool, right? Oh, great, got myself a car. Because, oh man, I should get something else. So let me get an entertainment center. Let me get some new furniture. Then after a while you realize, oh my gosh, I've got all these higher purchases and my income coming in is not actually meeting the need. And you ever feel like that? Sometimes you get bogged down with finances, rent is coming, you got to feed the kids, you got to feed yourself, and all of a sudden you have no vision of going forward, and it's like a cloud. Have you been there before where you just feel stressed with finances? In fact, a lot of marriages break up because of finances. A lot of arguments happen because of finances. You need to work more. You need to work too. We need to work more. Maybe we should get a couple of jobs, and we have no vision to get out of there. But when somebody sits next to you who has a plan to actually, this is the vision, that you're going to be financially free. And this is the plan to get you there. And once you're like this, all of a sudden you begin to see vision and where you can be. And when you see a plan, all of a sudden it starts to become clear again. Because vision motivates. Vision motivates. And we've got there's some great organization around here, CAP, and other kind of places like that. CAP stands for Christians Against Poverty. And they have a great system. In fact, we're hoping to get that up and running in our own church, in this place. But it's not just finances, relationships. We can get bogged down and with all sorts of life, studying. Have you ever missed an assignment before? Those who study or have studied before, you missed an assignment. Oh no, this assignment's due. Another assignment comes along and you're worried about that one. Next you know, you got 2 assignments due. Then another assignment. Then you got 4. So have you been to that place where you had 4 assignments due? Don't have to put your hand up. Everybody putting their hand up. 4 assignments due, and you're like, and all of a sudden your vision is not clear. How am I going to do this? I can't do this. What's the use? Where am I? And you can't see ahead. But when you sit with somebody who's been through there, or maybe they've got a plan, they begin to give a plan. Well, I tell you what, why don't you start working on what you've got now? Well, let's do one at a time. Focus on what you've got. Tell you what, here's a plan for your assignment, how to write an assignment. Let's just knock off one at a time. When all of a sudden there's a vision of finishing your assignment and there's a plan to get there, all of a sudden there's clarity, you can see again. See, vision motivates. Vision excites us. And when we don't have vision, in Proverbs chapter 29, the Bible tells us that people perish when we don't have vision. And we truly can perish. We feel like, I can't get out of this. I'm in a hole and I can't get out of this place. And we've all been there. I've been there many times in all sorts of ways in my life. But when we got vision, it excites us. We have vision, it shows there's a way out. It gives us hope. It gives us a plan for our future. And in the Bible, there's a group of people that God called Moses the lead. And praise God, it was Moses, because I don't know if I'll be able to lead these people. And so if you've got your Bibles, turn with me to Exodus chapter 15, verse 22. And Moses had just led the nation of Israel from slavery. They were enslaved in Egypt. And God used Moses to move them out of there through 10 miracles. And they crossed the Red Sea. This Red Sea they parted, they got through into freedom. Okay, so this is the story. So now they've just crossed, they've just come out of slavery, and they've just come through the Red Sea. Now on to chapter 15, verse 22. Then Moses led Israel from the Red Sea, and they went into the desert of Shur. It's still there. For 3 days they traveled in the desert without finding water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink its water because it was bitter. That is why the place is called Morah. So the people grumbled against Moses, saying, "What are we to drink?" And quite often, have you in life, you all of a sudden you try to come up with your own plans, and you think things are going to go so well now because I've set this in motion, and then it gets there and it doesn't happen. Your finances are still the same. Your relationship is still the same. Your studies are still the same because what you try to put in place, it wasn't working. And sometimes they can really deal a big blow to what we're trying to do. And that's why God is so important in our life. Because sometimes I make a lot of my own plans and it falls on my face. But when I come for God, and God begins to highlight things in my own life. And I realize, actually, God, I need to slow down and walk with you. And so what does Moses do? Moses goes before God. And we read on in verse 25. Then Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. He threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. So God gave them a way out, gave them something sweet to drink. Then they carried on their journey. They left this place. They got to a place and they grumbled before God. They had no vision. They said, "What are we doing? We left Israel. What are we doing? We don't know where we're going. We're walking through the desert. We're hot. We're tired. The sun's beating down on us. We reached this place we thought was a great place, but the water was bitter. God, what?" And they're grumbling before God, and Moses intercedes, seeks God, and God makes the water sweet again. Then they carry on. Verse 27. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and they camped there near the water. Elim was the very first true oasis that they came across. Elim. And that's where we get our name from. The Elim movement is from there. It was a true oasis. It was a place where they found shelter. It was a place where they found refuge, where they were refreshed from the journey. Can you imagine walking through a desert? Walking through a desert, and where the sand is hot and it's crumbling before your feet. And it's hard. You ever run on the sand? It's quite hard to run. That's okay, we have a bit of fun. But imagine walking through there for 3 days through sand beneath your feet. There's no shelter. There's sun just beating down on you. You're thirsty. Can you imagine when they first spotted Elim, when they saw 70 palm trees and 12 springs? To them, it would have seemed like heaven on earth, where they were able to get shelter from the sun, where they had to be refreshed from the water. And that's what Elim, the movement of Elim, that's what we are. We're a place where you find refreshing, a place where you've been through, because life can be very hard, and we know life can be hard until we stumble across Elim, stumble across a place where people love you, where people care for you, where people believe the best for you, the place where you can grow and learn from God. And when all of a sudden your vision was like this, then all of a sudden you can start to see again. You can start to see ahead of what's to come. When we first came to this church 12 years ago, and I've heard a lot of people say this church is a missions church. This church is the missions church. And so as you began to hear these stories, why is this church a missions church? And because this church sent out missionaries throughout the world, from this church, from this place here in Hamilton. This church has been here for 50 years. And for all that time, they sent out missionaries that reached the world. In fact, we're still supporting missionaries over in Asia. And they've also not just only sent missionaries, but they planted churches throughout the Waikato, throughout the Bay of Plenty, all the way to Napier. This church, why did they do that? Why did they send missionaries out there? Why were they planting churches? Why were they doing all these things? And the answer to that really is because they really did care about people. They really did care about people. They believe that when God is part of your life is much better. That your marriages are better. that your thought life is better. They really believe that we are better together. This movement called Elim is a place of refreshing, a place of safety, of rest. They really did care for people, and we still do. And so as I wrestled with God about this, Lord, are we a missions church? And I believe God said to me, Ants, you're still a missions church. That's what I've called you to be. That's what I've called this place to be. That we are a missions church. We partner with OMS, who they're what do you call the people who lead something? They're leaders. I was trying to use for a fancy word, but leaders will do. It's almost like Billy T. James, but anyway, let's carry on. Leaders, my wife is writing on a whiteboard, leaders. They lead OMS, which stands for, I can see the flag here, One Mission Society. And they're really good at sending teams across the world. So we say, let's join up with partner with an organization that do this really well, OMS. Owen and Avalon, who lead OMS. Owen is still a current Elim pastor. He's not a retired Elim pastor. He's a current Elim pastor and also part of this church. Is Owen and Avalon here this morning? He's out there doing something for the mission. He speaks all over the place. But, I'm not the only ordained minister in this church. Owen Brown is also an ordained minister of the Elim movement. And so we're partnering with them. Every year we're going to send a team overseas. Every year we're going to be doing that. And I really do believe that as we begin to grow and as we begin to care for people, and I really do see us planting other churches from this church, that we will plant again and again. Because that's what God's called us to do. Why are we going to do this? Because we really do care for people. We really do believe that God has so much better plans for your life. And so our vision is this. We want to be a church where the unchurched will love to attend. We want to be a church where the unchurched will love to attend. So why do we want to do that? Is it up there? To be a church that the unchurched would love to attend. So why do we want to do that? Because we really want to get the message of Christ, the message of the gospel. We don't want to just keep it within these four walls. We want to get it out as much as possible. Why? Because we believe that we're better together. That's our purpose. We are better together. Your life will be better. We're not just doing life together, but it will be better. Because I could be in a marriage that's toxic, but I'm still doing life with you. But being part of Elim, your marriage will be better. Your thought life will be better. Your finances will be better. Because with God, all things are possible. Because we're better together. We want to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. See, Jesus Christ, He's the one who sets us free. He's the one who saves us. The reason why we're here is because of the work of the cross. And we want to encourage people, we want to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. And why do I believe this? Because what we've done as a church, that's my story. I'm here because this church cared about me. I'm here because it was a church for the unchurched. I'm here because they accepted who I was. And not just for where I was at that time, but they believed the best for what I can become. And that hasn't changed. We are a church that accepts all people, but not all behaviors. We're a church where you come and you'll be better. When I first, you've heard my testimony before, the story of when I first turned up to work at New Zealand Post as a young, raw Christian. And then there was this guy called John Taggart he didn't like Christians. He didn't like the royal family. He was from England. He lived here, and he had lots of chips on his shoulder. All he ate was chocolate and drank Coke. His last name was Taggart. See, that's one thing. And he had massive eyebrows that came out like this, and big, massive sideburns. We kind of called him the Wolf Man. He was scary. He had eyes that could burn when he looked at you. They kind of burnt holes in your head. So he's really, and he didn't like Christians. And they said, Ants, whatever you do, don't tell John that you're a Christian. So I turn up to work with him. The first thing he says to me is, so you're a Christian? So I'll turn and look at the boys. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks. Thank you, guys. And as they left, because he used to call me, I was his lackey. He was the senior guy. I was lackey. I had to go do whatever he tells me to do, load this container. And so he said to me, you know what I think about Christians? And I said, no. In my mind, I was saying, no, I don't really want to know. But I didn't say that. And he said, I think Christians are the biggest backstabbers, the biggest hypocrites, the biggest liars. But as he said this thing, they were actually longer sentences because there are these other words that I can't really say. And he had another dialect that I can't really say, and maybe before I became Christ, but this other dialect I couldn't say. And he kept laying it all down, and it's like he threw a gauntlet, threw it on the ground, and he said, yeah, come on, your turn. And I was like, what am I going to say? What do you say? You're just a newbie. You're just somebody who's just accepted Christ for the first time. So I said, actually, John, you're right. And he was like, eh? I was going, you're right. Because Christians are the biggest hypocrites, the biggest liars, the biggest. And I started going through his list without the other dialect that he used. And I said, I know this because you're looking at the biggest one around. You're looking right here. That's why I'm going to church. I'm doing something about it. What are you doing about it? Yeah. Then after that, he goes, should we go load some containers? Sure, let's go. John became one of my best friends at working at the International Maui St back in Auckland. And he would always say to me, like, I'm Darth Vader, you're Luke, and I'm going to turn you to the dark side one day. He'd always say that to me. And in fact, as I went through my job, I was promoted in different parts of the company, and he was my biggest promoter. In fact, when it came to being the team leader, of becoming his team leader, because he was probably the next person in charge, because no one knew what he knew because he had so much experience. But he pushed me to be the team leader. So a guy that hated Christians became one of my biggest allies, and a very close friend. We had a lot of good talks about Christianity, working together. But you know what? I loved working with him. He was a great man. But I really do believe that when we come to know Christ, that our lives are better. We are better together. The very fact that we're here, you know, Mana Portal's story. When we first come here 12 years ago, we came running. We ran away from Auckland because our lives were full of mess. We had lots of mess in our lives. We ran away from Auckland. I was a failure. I was a failure in marriage. I was a failure in finances. I was bankrupt. I was a failure. I've lost my pride. I lost my integrity. I lost, you name it, I lost it all. And so I come running here, living with my girlfriend and 5 children. 12 years ago, well, just over 12 years ago. And the last place I want to go was to church. Why do I want to go to church? Because I knew that I wasn't good enough to go to church. And no matter what God had done for me in the past, I kind of turned my back on God because although God always says God believed that I was good enough, but I didn't believe it. Sometimes God's always got his hands up, but we turn our backs on God. And God said, look, I'm here for you. But we turn our backs, look, I'm not good enough. I just don't believe it. But I wanted to come along to church. I didn't want to go, but she made me come. And we stumbled upon Elim, a place of refreshment, a place of shelter. And as we stumbled along this place, God began to move in our life. Things began to change where people didn't judge us. I wouldn't feel that. I don't know if they did, but we didn't feel that at all. Not at all. They accepted us for who we were. God said, come as you are, and we did. A year and a half later, we get married. We begin to grow in God. Because this was really a church for the unchurched, and they really believed the best. And as they began to lead us into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ, our lives got better, our finances got better, our home got better, our marriage got better. And then I realized, man, God, you've led that no matter what happens in our lives, that we're always good enough. And although I've turned my back on God, God was leading me along the way. And you know the story in the Bible in the Bible. This is when I first when I was at school. Who loves speeches at school? It's one of those great things. But I remember as a teenager I hated speeches. One of my mates becomes a Christian at school, Maui College, all those years ago. And you know what he does? He stands up and he shares the story. And the story is about a guy who has a dream. And in this dream, he's with God, and his life is being flashed across the sky, and it's a well-known story, and most of you know this story. Flashed across the sky, and as he noticed that as the best times of his life, he looks back at the footsteps of his steps and God's steps in the sand. He sees that they're walking side by side during the best times of his life. Then he noticed during the hardest times of his life, he looked back and there's only one set of footprints. And he goes, God, where were you? Where were you when I needed you most? And he says, son, that is when I carried you. You know, and they share this story as a teenager sitting there, and I was blown away. And I was, whoa, who's this guy? This is one of my mates. This is one of the boys who we get in trouble with. He comes and he brings this to school and speeches. I've never heard anything like this. But whatever he said, man, that's something, I need whatever he's got. And he begins to share his testimony, how he came to Christ. The great thing about speeches in school, you can say whatever you want. And that was the beginning of me going along to his youth group and eventually accepting Christ for the very first time. I'm a big believer of equipping our young people to go into the high schools, to their high schools, and sharing the gospel to their friends. Because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. I'm a picture of that teenager who was lost in the world. But some young person, church got hold of this young person, made his life better, came to the high school, and he shared his story. And I'm here today. Church, we're better together. We are. When you go to your workplaces, you're better together. Your friends in your workplaces, begin to tell the story and how God came through in your life. And see your workplaces change, see your school places change, see your home life change, see your thought life change, because we're better together. Church, I'm going to close in prayer. Because if you forget anything else I've said this morning, remember this: we're better together. So let's pray.